We don't have class tomorrow. Day after tomorrow, we have the Vesak teaching on in memory of a great prince. That's the topic. We'll talk about the merits of the Prince Siddhartha, Shakyamuni Buddha. Also, I'll give the oral transmission of Mipa Rinpoche's teaching, sadhana of Shakyamuni. Next week, Monday and Tuesday, we have a Malakirti Sutra, and Thursday and Friday, we have the class on Uttaratantra Shastra. We have no class tomorrow. No class? Then I think you should take some rest. You should relax because it's spring. Have some tea. Don't squander your time too much, but at least have some coffee. I used to really like coffee, and then I didn't really want to, I didn't dare to have coffee anymore because they said coffee is not good for health. And then when I went to Norway and Sweden, people over there, they drink many cups of coffees. So many coffee shops everywhere. And then after being there for a little while, I wanted to drink coffee again. Nowadays, many doctors then ask me to stop drinking coffee again. I live in a rather controversial statements of whether coffee is good or not. But when you then take some break, I think when you have time, you should take some break. You can probably hear cuckoo birds in the morning, and then you can take 1 or 2 hours break, have some coffee or tea. In Tibet, we say that if you hear the sound of cuckoo, whatever things you're doing, then you will continue to do that for the whole year. Maybe it's just a saying in Tibet. So the Tibetan people usually like to get up really early in the morning and have a breakfast. So they really wish that during the time they're full and having breakfast, that they can hear the sound of cuckoo birds. And then that's really auspicious. That's a sign that they will be full. But this year, when I heard the cuckoo bird, I was hungry at that time. Hopefully, I won't starve to death this year because of that sign. So I think listening to the bird singing, read books, take some rest to have a good mood, and then study.
Yana Sidara, Tanda Shitan, Workuto, Toba Jimbur, Gilwami, Tanjo, Sanji, and Jansu, Tangela, Shilm Salo, Sanji, Chudon, Kamdan, Shanchipton, Yondan Sanjim, Chenle, Tamate, Tamju Gunji, Linam, Dordina, Durji, and Nidan, Dotako, Dotak Ramson, Yete, Jimjer, Koram Chevjin, Zonji, Yerbun, Dor, Lange, Lenam, Chosum, Richard, Jeune of Lorton. Gerchu Yevali, Sanji, Le Chu, Chule, Gendan, Chule, Pabo, Sole, Nyambo, Ishi, Kam Topper. Ishi date of Shanch, Chok Top, Chok Top, Tobreva. Chok Top, Jingo Hoshan, Tushama, Dere, Tobreva. Tobreva, Top Madu. 민주 출판社出的有没有？两个觉得这里把对把，觉得更多个个的，是的，民族更多那个，的那top进度，top是吧？토속던 샘정권도 시주 남당단 그런 남당단
That's where we'll stop. That's all. The Supreme Dharma that is very difficult to hear. Now I have the opportunity to listen to it. Please grant me blessings so that I understand the profound meaning of the Dharma. Now, in order to benefit all sentient beings, let's give rise to bodhicitta. We will start the class on Uttaratantra Shastra today. I think the teaching method of teaching this particular Shastra would be a little bit different than the one that we had a class on the Mahayana adornment Shastra. Because in that Shastra we talked quite a bit about how to benefit others, and we can then talk about how to take action to benefit the society and benefit others. The Vimalakirti Sutra as well as the Lotus Sutra, it talks quite a bit about the merits of different sutras of the different bodhisattvas, and that could be quite interesting to people who enjoy listening to the Dharma from that aspect. And then when we talk about the Sigalovada Sutra and the classics of filial piety, I think those kind of teachings would be rather very fitting to the kind of mentality of worldly people, how to practically implant Dharma into their lives. But Uttaratantra Shastra, the meaning behind it is rather very profound. It is very professional, so to speak. The majority of worldly people don't really have, they're not accustomed to this idea yet. And lots of the teaching within could be quite difficult to understand, and it may sound very unfamiliar. Because on one hand, this is very much hidden in ourselves. On the other hand, is that the merit within is mostly only kept by the bodhisattvas. Although all the sentient beings do have a Buddha nature, but the teachings within are rather quite profound and far-fetched for us in some ways. So for mundane beings in our daily life, the dharmas that we heard and the dharmas that we listened to, I think it could be quite different than this one that we are listening to. And lots of people, they really enjoy to listen to the engaged Buddhism topics as well as how to practically use the Dharma into life. In this particular sutra, in this particular Shastra's teaching, I don't think I will be able to talk too much about those, because talking about those could be then, in some ways, cover the real teaching of this Shastra. Therefore, I really hope that all of our audience should be mentally prepared, because the teaching this time would be rather a little bit different, rather very different than how we are accustomed to, and very different than our habitual pattern. So some people may not be able to understand lots of the meanings in it. You're probably flying in the air while listening to it. I really hope that not all of you are taking the airplane during listening to it. I hope that at least some of you could be taking the train as a method of commute. I think lots of people are not familiar with the terms and teachings of Buddhism. That's understandable because look at people who have never really studied finance or philosophy or physics, chemistry, and so on. If you never really got into them before and right away you jump into the university course of those, how can you understand it? But do not then feel that way, because if you are not in that profession, if you're not in that major and then do not have interest in it, how can you get to know it? When I was in school, when my teacher teach subjects that I don't like or the teacher that I don't like, then I would try to pretend that I'm sick and ask for sick leaves, or try to read other books during the class, or sleep during the class, and just try to pass the time. It is understandable because everyone's interests are very different. Everyone's incline of their habitual pattern could be very different. For some of the people in our audience, they could have great confidence in Mahayana, and some may not. And there are people who just attended the class, they don't really know what our chanting is. Why are they chanting all of these? They may think. But for people who have interest, then they would be very interested in the chanting, and I think that all of these chanting have great blessings. I wish that I could participate in this for a longer period of time. So, for me, if you're listening to this class, even if you can't understand this class, at least if you can participate in listening to this class and receive the oral transmission, and slowly, in your spare time, on your own, you can go through the books again and again. With the accumulation of knowledge, later on, you'll be able to understand it more. When I was in junior high school, and the first year, I couldn't understand what it was at the beginning. And on the second year, when I look back at the first year's book, I thought, wow, this is really easy. Why didn't I understand it at the beginning of the first year? And then on the third year, I felt the same about the second year's textbook. So it is the same. It is very similar to the Dharma. After you finish studying one Shastra and one text, and then look back at the text, you'll be able to have a much better understanding of the whole text. I know that yesterday a lot of you participated in the class because of curiosity. And later on, there are a lot of people who are very lovely, and they persisted all the way through and listened to the end of the class. I do feel that there are quite a bit of people. They persisted through the winter and the summer. They persisted throughout different chores and different engagement, and they had the same interest in the Dharma no matter what. I know during the time of Phuntsok Rinpoche, there are lots of practitioners who attended the class without interruption at all. The interest of listening to the Dharma is the most important in their lives. I think that is very admirable, and I welcome people like that to attend my classes. the people who are curious, who have interest, who have faith, who have joy, who have diligence to participate in the class, to listen to the Dharma. I think this kind of people are very valuable, and by listening to the Dharma, this group of people would benefit a lot for themselves as others. As I said yesterday, I quoted from this Shastra, it says that the merit that generated from generosity as well as precept and meditation could be so great, but still it is not as great as listening to even one stanza or even one word from the sutra. Therefore, I really encourage you to study, to persist in listening to this sutra, to this shastra. I often think about, contemplate upon impermanence. I'm not saying that there's something impermanent going on that is disturbing our classes right now, but I'm saying that it is important to have impermanence in your mind, because you never know when you will not have such an opportunity. So have the impermanence in mind. It really could help you to listen to the Dharma, contemplate in the Dharma, and develop firm understanding and unwavering faith in the Dharma. This is very important. Now, let's get into the context of Uttaratantra Shastra. Yesterday we talked about the backgrounds and history and the authors of this text. And yesterday after the class, I think that could dispel your confusion about who the author is and so on. Through different teaching evidence as well as doctrines and logics, we dispelled those confusions. Whose cell phone is ringing? Do not stare into your phone, okay? Yesterday, I heard that someone who was very diligent in studying and very good in the grade, but after playing very much on the cell phone, everything decreased. The marks as well as mentality. I noticed that the facial expression as well as the health doesn't look so good. So let you be lay practitioners or monastic, it is the best not to dwell in the Mara of a cell phone. I say that they have not. There are people who are really harming their health and their body. Maybe not suicidal, but very close to it. Some Khenpos and Kemos stopped using cell phones in their classes, but I'm not sure if it's practical to then ask everyone to give up their cell phone. In the long term, I think maybe giving up cell phones wouldn't be too great. Otherwise, it seems that there are people who then slept around the staircase. They would fall asleep with their cell phone on like that. I notice them when I go up the staircase. If everyone's like that in a monastery, then you can imagine how the big cities are, how the people in the big cities are. You can turn off your cell phones during studying, especially during studying, because if your mind is not focused on the study, then how could the knowledge get into you? And what's the value of studying then? Yesterday, I wanted to tell you a story of Asanga, of his connection to Uttara Tantra Shastra. It is because of Arya Asanga we then can receive this text. It is through his wisdom as well as his realization. He has quite auspicious connection to the Tushita heaven. So the story goes like this. In the West Journal of the West from the Tang Dynasty, at that time there was a person whose name is Buddha Simpa, and he was the brother of Vasubandhu. Some say that it was his brother. Some say that Buddha Simpa was the disciple of Vasubandhu. Anyhow, they both made aspiration of being reborn to Tushita heaven. Then they had a bet. They had a pact saying that whomsoever reborns in the Tushita heaven, then that person should come back and at least send some kind of message. At first, Buddha Simha then died for 3 years, and there was no message sent back from him for 3 years. And then, same as Vasubandhu passed away for 6 months, didn't have any message coming back from him either. So lots of Vasubandhu, lots of heterodox started saying that they must have been born in the hell realm then. Then Asanga went to the Tushita heaven, saying, visiting them, and Asanga asked, how come you didn't come back to send any message saying that you are already reborn in the Tushita heaven? And where is Buddha Simha? He's been gone for 3 years and didn't send any message back. And then Vasubandhu saying that, well, he's in the outer quarter where he's been enjoying all the entertainment with the celestial beings and didn't really have any time to come back to send any message. And Vasubandhu then told Asanga, saying that Maitreya Bodhisattva, what he's teaching is just like how you teach, except that he's really pleasant to look at and his voice is so pleasant to hear as well. You can never get bored of his voice and his teaching. See, for the point of the story is that Buddha Simha, who had such great faith to be reborn in Tushita heaven, once he got into such an environment that is full of entertainment, he then dwelled in such entertainment and pleasure, and someone who has a realization like him forgot about all of his practices or giving any messages to Asanga. Also, Maitreya Bodhisattva's teaching is so pleasant, nobody would feel bored of listening to the Dharma teaching from him. Unlike some of us who, at the beginning, feels very interested in the Dharma. If the Dharma teacher is very humorous and tells stories and very good at teaching Dharma, then the audience won't get tired. But if the teacher is rather dry and not good at telling jokes, not good at teaching the Dharma, then I think the audience would be rather suffering quite a bit. If audience have the interest of listening to Mahayana teachings, I think in this lifetime, in our limited lifetime, it is quite precious. Sometimes I think to myself, during our limited lifetime, listening to the Mahayana Dharma is so very valuable. I understand that people have very different ideas of what is valuable and what is precious. I think that's very valuable to be able to teach and study Mahayana Dharma. I'm interested in teaching as well as learning, and during my youth, I was very much interested in studying. And I think all of our audience over here, I think you're all attracted by the teaching of compassion, by the teaching of emptiness, by the teaching of kindness, and so on. So I think since we have such interest, then we should make the aspiration of listening to the Dharma. We've studied so many texts from Asanga, from Vasubandhu, from different masters. And Maitreya Bodhisattva's teaching must be even better. And all of us who had such opportunity to listen to such teachings must have great auspicious connections to all of these masters, especially Maitreya Bodhisattva, especially his teaching. In the Sutra of Great Compassion, it says that the Buddha told Ananda, saying, in this lifetime, we are ordained as monastics and practice the virtuous actions. Then in the future lifetimes, at least in the Maitreya Buddha's time, we will definitely be able to attain realization. For people who are not even diligent, they can be the disciples of Maitreya Buddha. Some other sutras also stated similar doctrines. Therefore, I really hope that in our lifetime, on one hand, we should then make auspicious connections to Maitreya Bodhisattva and listening to his teachings. On the other hand, under the teaching period of Shakyamuni Buddha, we should then uphold the precept, such as taking ordination as a monastic. And for those of you who used to be monastic and then derobed, at least do not break your view, do not abandon your view. For those of you who don't have the opportunity to get ordained, at least you should uphold the vow of taking refuge of the three jewels and take the 5 lay practitioners' precepts. Okay, we will get into the text of the text. This text is taught by Maitreya Bodhisattva. He is the next Buddha to be after Shakyamuni Buddha in this good kalpa. And the reference commentary that we will use is the Taranata's commentary. At first, there's the main supplication, and then it talks about after the salutation of the translator, it talks about detailed explanation of the part, detailed explanation of the last 4 points described in the 3 jewels, and then the conclusion of the explanation from these 4 parts. There are lots of teachers nowadays who are fluent in Sanskrit. Between 13th to 18th century, Lots of the texts were destroyed from Buddhism, of Buddhism from different religions and historical reasons. So lots of texts were lost. But this text has its Sanskrit version, and then the Sanskrit name is Mahayana Uttaratantra Shastra, and the Tibetan version is Khenpo Sodargye. I think the Tibetan name sounds more fluent to me. If my Chinese is not so good, at least you should understand, because I only studied how to pronounce Chinese when I was 16 years old, and I didn't really encounter a good Chinese teacher. I only learned from a Chinese teacher when I was in junior high, but my Tibetan pronunciation is good. Okay, so the name of it, Maha, means great. Yana is chariot, and Uttara Tantra is the supreme tantra or supreme continuum. But if we just say that it's a tantra, then it could be a little misleading. Therefore, the title translated into Chinese, it's actually the Mahayana. The Mahayana Ratna or treasure nature Shastra. In the full title of it is Ratna Gotra. Ratna means treasure. That means the Buddha nature, or as according to Yumin Yenshu's Mind Mirror, it says that where is the island of treasures? It is the mind of sentient beings, because sentient beings' minds are just like the island that is full of treasures. Some people from different academic backgrounds, and they may say that all sentient beings has the characteristics of Tathagata, or the sentient beings they all possess the Buddha nature. What's the difference of it? In fact, there are no difference. And then Shastra is the commentary. That it means commentary. In Tibetan, it is damju. It is a commentary. It is different than the sutras. What is a Shastra? What is a commentary then? I think I quoted this before by Venerable Vasubandhu. He said that that which subdues all the enemies of afflictions and guards against the future existence in lower realms, it is called a treatise, because it subdues and protects these two features are not found in other traditions. I think I quoted this last year in my personal Chinese Twitter. In this, it says that there are the two characteristics, the two features. The first one is subdues the enemy of afflictions. And second one is guards against the future existence in the lower realms, to protect one from being reborn in three lower realms. So this kind of commentary or treatise has such qualities that it would prevent you from falling into lower realms. Otherwise, there are commentaries commentaries in nowadays in the modern world that would increase afflictions as well as would lead you to lower realms, just as some of the popular books, they would lead you to give birth to aggression, to desire, to ignorance, and teach you how to kill people, teach you to steal or take what is not yours. So those kind of books are not called as Shastra. Also there's Mahayana at the beginning. Mahayana should be at the beginning. What is Mahayana then? As according to the adornment of Mahayana Sutra, it says that there are the 7 greatness about the great vehicle. In the 6th Paramita Sutra, it says that there are the 6 great, the great observation, the great observance, and then the great diligence, the great method, the great activities. So the rest are rather the same. The great wisdom, great enlightenment, and great activities. So those are the 7 greatness that is 7 greatness that is included in the Mahayana. Because it has these 7 great characteristics, therefore it is called the great vehicle or great chariot. That is Mahayana. There are the chariot or the vehicle of cause or the vehicle of fruition. Fruition chariot is the one that leads you to the fruition, and chariot of cause are the ones that would lead you on the path and eventually lead you to the enlightenment. Why Hinayana then? Why is it small vehicle? Because small vehicle or people whomsoever practice in the Hinayana, they only search for their personal enlightenment so that they can themselves get to the destination, but not everyone else. And from such a way, they don't see the great truth. So that's a difference between the 2 different vehicles. In Mahayana teaching, we talk about the truth of benefiting others and not falling into the 3 lower realms. And in that it is called the Mahayana. If we expand too much on that, it could be a lot more to talk about, but I'm not going to be too expanded of that. And I don't want to then extend the classes too much. And over here it's a salutation. It's a men's salutation, and it is a salutation from the translator. It is said that the text is then translated in the city of no metaphor, which in some texts it says that it is in a place in Kashmir that is translated by the great Pandita and scholar Sadhana and the great Brahmin Vajra. So at first then they salute all Buddha and Bodhisattvas in order to in order to successfully translate the entire text. When I translate, sometimes I do remember to then write this salutation at the beginning, saying that I bow down to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and sometimes I forget about it. And we will teach this following outline, or in the English version it says that it's a table of contents. In India, there was no tradition of having outlines, nor it is included in Theravada tradition. But in Tibetan tradition, table of contents or the outline is very important. And lots of great masters attach a great importance to such texts, to such outline. It is nowadays there's the mind maps that has main subject and then subsubjects. And then the subject could also be relating back to the main topic. Just as a tree that grows branch and small branches and the smaller branches, that's very similar. So this kind of method of making mind map is very much similar to the table of contents or outline. In Western schools, if you were to write a thesis, you have to then write different outlines and different topics, different subjects, and then subtopics and subjects to then relate back to your own thesis. This is very similar to the Tibetan Buddhism's outline. In Tibetan Buddhism, this kind of method has been used for over 1,300 years. And this kind of logical threads are very similar to nowadays the Western school system in terms of their thesis writing and research writing and so on. So we're going to use the table of content, which has the outline that has the main outline, the main subject, the subsubjects, and so on. This is very easy to use and very logical. So over here, the first one is the actual commentary, which has supreme meaning, that is B2, and the B2.1 that then states the presentation of the body of the text. And the second one is B2.2 that explains a detailed explanation of the parts. And in B2.1.2, it has reference to the sutras constituting their source, and B2.1.3 says that explanation of their sequence by means of given order. For people with great or sharp capacity, they right away understand what this text is going to talk about just by reading the title. For the ones with medium capacity, after the first stanza, they will be able to understand the whole content of this text. And for the ones with lower capacity, then they will understand the text through all the verses of the text. This is the actual commentary and the presentation or the summary of the body of the text. It then says that if condensed, the body of the entire commentary consists of the following 7 Vajra points: Buddha, Dharma, and assembly, the elements, qualities, and the Buddha activity. It follows great system. It follows the step-by-step method. Layer by layer, it is very clear for the teacher to teach. Similarly, to the audience, whomsoever listening to this text, they will be able to to understand this text without any addition or omission of the message. So these 7 Vajras are very important. The summary of it is very important. The Uttaratantra Shastra, I think many of you probably have studied it before. It has 5 chapters. The first one is a summary, and then first of all is a summary, and then the second chapter is the chapter of Tathagata, and then the second chapter is the first of all it talks about the 3 refuges, and the last 4 Vajra points. The Vajra points of enlightenment, equality, and activities. The first one, it talks about the Buddha, the Dharma, and then assembly. The Buddha is the one who has already perfected the 2 benefits and who attains all the merits. The second point is the sacred Dharma that has the teaching of the path and the truth of cessation, that is the Dharma. And the third point is the Sangha, the noble assembly, that has the 2 wisdoms without retrogress. Over here, the Sangha is not the kind of Sangha that is according to Hinayana. In Hinayana tradition, they talk about the 4 monastics, which then groups the Sangha. But over here in this text, the Sangha means the continuum of the bodhisattvas, of the realized ones. There are the 20 types of Sanghas who are the refuge place of all of us, within which there are some could be retrogressed. But after the retrogress, just like how some of us could fall onto the ground but right away get up. So over here, those are the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. They're from the aspect of what you could again. And the fourth one is element, or could be family, or the family name. Over here in this element aspect, in fact, has many aspects. In this part, although the nature of such is pure, but it is then being covered by many defilements, and therefore that is the element part. And then the next one is enlightenment. After recovering to the natural purity, then that could be called enlightenment. After the teaching and pointing out and the guidance of the Guru, you'll be able to understand the enlightened. You'll be able to get enlightened from the elements or the seed or the family seed or family name that we talked earlier, the element part. Everyone is naturally was a born Buddha. Everyone has this pure Buddha nature. Through the peace instruction of teacher or through your practice, after eradicating all the defilements, you'll be able to get enlightened, and the enlightenment is the nature. And that part is more taught in the later chapters. The next one talks about
呢，一个是这个发生的这个逆袭过河，还有这个色色的这个艺术过啊，就是中国有
In the Enlightenment chapter, we'll talk more about the Enlightenment aspect. The next one talks about the qualities.
然后呢，就是降到了这个事业，就是事业的话呢，因为你已经证悟了，有了这些功德的时候呢，依靠这些功德的相应的这个塑化众生，或者依靠这种功德的力量呢，就是让别人也是就是马上这个证悟。
benefit sentient beings and lead sentient beings to enlightenment. So, the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, elements, enlightenment, merit, and activity, those are 7 in total. These are the 7 Vajras that will be taught in this entire body of this text. What is Vajra? Vajra is the thing that could destroy everything. There's nothing that could destroy the Vajra. Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, Buddha nature, merit, and Buddha activity, all of those are all the truth that could be obtained through personal enlightenment. The nature of all of these said above are just like Vajra that cannot be broke. The points over here then says that it is relied upon words, a place where you need the support. In fact, you need the support of words to understand it. You need Chinese, English, Tibetan, Sanskrit to understand this text. So the point means this is the foundation or the support, the basis to understand this in order to lead to enlightenment. So in this part, I hope everyone could understand that the whole text is summarized in these 4 verses, that there are the 7 Vajras, that this text is divided into 5 chapters. And it has the foundation of words to lead to enlightenment. And people sometimes would have questions about what's the reference and how then could you have support for this text? Nippon Rinpoche has a text that then correlates the Prajna Paramita Sutras to this text. And over here it talks about the second point. It is B2.1.2. It says reference to the sutras constituting their source. It says that in the above order which presents them in a logical sequence, this Vajra points should be known to be derived from the sutra requested by King Dharani Shravara. The first 3 stem from its introductory chapter, and the later 4 from its chapters on the property of those who possess understanding and the victorious ones. The nature of the 7 Vajra points and the relation of all the 7 Vajra points are connected and taught through steps. The first 3 are the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, and then the elements, and then enlightenment, and then the merits, and then the activity. So those are more of a step-by-step method. And that kind of step-by-step or system is taught in the Dharani Shvara Raja Sutra. It is included in the Great Heap Sutra as one chapter. In different other sutras, they also have different they also included them in different other sutras. And in the Great Heap Sutra, it's included in the sutra exposing the superior mind. In the Sutra of No Increasing and Decreasing Sutra, the element aspect is taught. Then the fifth Vajra point, which is enlightenment, it is taught in the Srimala Devi Simha Nada Sutra. The sixth Vajra point, that is the quality or the merit, that is then taught in the Sutra of No Increasing and No Decreasing. And then the last one, activity aspect, is taught in the Sutra of Approaching the Infinite, and inexpressible quality of the Tathagata. Also, they are taught in the some said that is also included in the Chinese text that is called the Supreme Refuge Sutra, which is translated by Paramatta. I'm not sure if it's translated in English at all. At least it is not included in the Tibetan version. The number of chapters and context are quite similar to the Uttaratantra Shastra text. Some say that if this sutra is genuine, is a real sutra, then why Uttaratantra Shastra didn't quote it? Therefore, the sutra must be a false sutra. It's a fake. It's a fortified sutra. Then it's a counterfeit sutra, but I don't think that's a valid reason. You can't, based on whether if one sutra quoted it or not, and say if it's a fake sutra. So, this kind of steps are included in different sutras, especially according to the Dharani Shrava Raja Sutra, which is also called the Tathagata's Great Compassion Sutra. In the prologue in this sutra, it says that the three jewels that the Buddha is the one who is fully awakened, and the Dharma is the three turning of the Dharma wheel by the Buddha, and the Sangha are the immeasurable tamed disciples. So within that sutra, it talks about the three jewels. The first three points are talked in this sutra over there in the prologue, and then the rest of the four Vajra points are then talked about in the later chapters, where it talks about the 60 methods of purifying. It says that all sentient beings that has Buddha nature, and because of the intrinsic existing Buddha nature, they then can attain enlightenment. And within that 60 methods of purification, it talks about the 4 adornments, the 8 illuminations, 16 great compassions, and 32 activities of Bodhisattva. And because of those, the first one, which is the Tathagata and the 80 kinds of categorization are taught. And later on, it talks about the 16 great compassion, which clearly demonstrates their bodhi or their great compassion. You can look up from the sutras according to different masters that they all taught very explicitly in all these different categorizations. And later on, according to different systems, and there are the teachings on the 10 powers and 4 fearlessness, 18 uncommon, 18 unshared Dharma of the Buddha, which clearly shows the quality and the merits of the Buddha. And later on, it talks about the Tathagata's 32 supreme activities, which then clearly demonstrates their great activity. And from this kind of description, what do we know? We can understand the merits or the qualities of the Tathagata, which now is not seen by us at this moment, or cannot be perceived by us at this moment. In the Chinese version of the Buddha nature text, it's quoted from the Buddha, where the Buddha says, "While hidden in the mines, the pure gold cannot be seen, but eventually would be seen by those who cleanse the outer layer, who then could see the Buddha nature." So people through practice, and then eventually they can see the Buddha nature. That's the second one. And then the third one talks about the sequence or the step. Or the steps that explains the sequence by means of given order. So why it is stated in this way? So it says that over here, from the Buddha stems the Dharma, from the Dharma the assembly of the noble ones, from the assembly the attainment of the Buddha nature, the element of primordial wisdom. This wisdom finally attained its supreme enlightenment, the power, and so on. Thus possessing the properties that fulfill the benefit of all sentient beings. So why the Buddha and then the Dharma and then the Sangha? Why follow such sequence? Why then follow the sequence of the elements and then the enlightenment and then the qualities and then the benefiting activities then? It is because through the first of all, it was the Buddha who first attained full realization and enlightenment, and then he turned the Dharma wheel, just as Buddha Shakyamuni, he stated that in the play of Full, it was recorded. It says that at first he didn't want to say a word, and he was in the deer park. At the moment he attained enlightenment, he said that profound, peaceful, stainless, lucid, and unconditioned, such is the nectar-like truth I have realized. Were I to teach it, no one would understand, so I will silently remain in the forest. this one was included in the Sutra, the Playing Full. So at first, the Buddha didn't turn the Dharma wheel. After many requests from celestial beings and many other beings, he started teaching in the deer park. And that's when this world then received the light of the Dharma. So he turned the Dharma wheel 3 times, the first, second, and third turning of the Dharma wheel. And after that, people can practice accordingly to the 3 turnings of the Dharma wheel, which forms the assembly of the noble ones. The Sangha who attained realization. After having such group of Sangha, and attainment of Buddha nature, the element of primordial wisdom, Ishi, or the primordial wisdom, or the Buddha nature. After practice accordingly, then they'll be able to slowly rediscover their Buddha nature. After the turning of Dharma wheel, it is then the sentient beings understood that all of us have the Buddha nature, because if not understanding this, it could be rather difficult for people to realize it. After practicing for many eons, the defilement could be purified, and the primordial wisdom can be then recovered. Or it could be the great enlightenment. That is the supreme enlightenment. And then the powers, the 10 powers, the 4 fearlessness, and so on could be possessed by the one who attained a great enlightenment. After you have such powers, you can benefit sentient beings. So the method, the system, the sequence goes as the Buddha, then the Dharma, and after the turning of the Dharma, the assembly practice accordingly. They can then attain the Buddha nature and the element of primordial wisdom, and finally attain supreme enlightenment. And once attained supreme enlightenment, the quality and activities will naturally be fulfilled. So it is very logical, this sequence. Maybe we'll stop here today. Come on, cheers. Today the translators wanted me to drink more water, but I forgot it until then. I speak rather fast, and the interpreters couldn't breathe, so they asked me to drink water.